welcome back to another vlog. This is She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, Season 1, Episodes 8 and 9, Princess Prom, and No Princesses Left Behind. This is a commission vlog for Aleph Null. Thanks for backing. So this is a pretty important pair of episodes for what is obviously the most important part of this series, which is, of course, Contra Dora shipping. What did you think it was going to be? More seriously, there's some serious stuff going on in these episodes. It's important to the overall arc of the season, but it's very hard to notice when you have essentially a two-parter, given that episode 8 ends in a cliffhanger, that starts with Catra in a fantabulous suit dancing with Dora in an amazing dress while Catra taunts her in a party where there's all kinds of subplots going on about jealousy and envy and leaving loved ones behind. And then in the second part, like at the end, we have Catra rescuing Dora by giving her, Dora and Glimmer actually, by giving Dora back the sword and then outright saying, "It's not because I like you or anything." The tsundere line to their object of affection. It's hard to read this any other way, and it's clearly not meant to be read any other way. They're a thing. They may not realize yet that they're a thing, but they are a thing. In terms of other stuff happening in these episodes, I guess, the prom itself is kind of an interesting concept. It's very 80s, both in like the synthesizer-heavy music used, the whole Crystal Palace motif of it, right down to like the styles of dress and the general plot, you know, very high school sitcom-y plot of my friend is going with someone else and we always went to things as besties and etc. etc. With a little bit of the, you know, the girl who's never been to a dance before and so her friends take her to this one. Like, there's a little bit of John Hughes in there. There's a little bit of, you know, and I know it was more of a 90s show, but in terms of time, but aesthetically it was pure 80s. There's a little bit of Saved by the Bell in this. There's a whole lot of things mixed up in this to give it a very 80s feel. Even the design, you know, the ice castle crystalline tower is a very 80s fantasy kind of a thing. It looks like something out of old She-Ra, obviously, or like an 80s fantasy movie. There's a little bit of the Ivory Tower from Neverending Story in there, but not a ton. The influence there, I felt, was a little more the music, and even that was a little more labyrinthy. There weren't any musical numbers, but the synthesizer music that was going on through the whole thing, especially the slow dance, felt very reminiscent of the instrumental portions of As the World Falls Down, I think is the name of the song. The one that plays during Sarah. That's the name of the girl in Labyrinth. Sarah's weird dream sequence with the ball and dancing with Jareth. The music there was very reminiscent of that. And within that context, again, like, Dora and Catra are clearly being presented as the love interests. There's some rough stuff in the past between them, but just the fact that they're the ones that get the slow dance is kind of telling. The next episode, No Princess Left Behind, is a much more action-heavy thing. It's essentially a heist gone wrong. There's something very video gamey about the, doors that inexplicably kill whoever's between them if they don't clear out of that space within a few seconds. I mean, the Horde very clearly doesn't care about basic worker safety. Look at their elevators. But at the same time, there's a difference between neglecting to put safety rails on a thing and deliberately setting up a system that vaporizes your employees if they make a wrong move, and has no apparent purpose beyond vaporizing people if they make a wrong move. As part of if it's because the alarm was going on, as part of a security system, it's too easily avoided. If it's some kind of airlock preventing contaminants from getting in kind of a thing, it's much too difficult to avoid getting vaporized by. I know it's a weird thing to be nitpicking in a fantasy show, but it just feels more video game than cartoon. To the point that in a video game I wouldn't blink at it, but in a cartoon it feels needlessly video gamey. Nonetheless, we end the episode with Entrapta is dead, which even my first time watching, obviously no, she's not. But it's still, a pretty dark place to go. As a general rule, characters did not die in 80s cartoons, especially not ones based on toy lines, because if a character is dead, how can you have more accessories for them? But at the same time, somebody getting left behind has been heavily foreshadowed throughout this two-parter. Glimmer's anxiety in Princess Prom that Beau's leaving her behind. Catra's very real anger about having been abandoned by Dora. Then in the next part, they keep leaving people behind. They lose Beau till he comes back. They lose Entrapta until she comes back. They lose Mermista until she comes back. They're very poorly organized, and they don't have a lot of cooperation going on, so somebody was going to get left behind between all of that. To say nothing of the title, calling attention to the idea of somebody getting left behind by saying it's not going to happen. The memory erasure of Dora, very reminiscent of what was done to her in the technically not a pilot movie of the old show. the old show had already been... It's not a pilot because the old show had already been greenlit when it was actually in theaters. And it's not technically a premiere either because it was a theatrical release, and the first aired episode of the show was the first episode after the movie. But regardless, in the movie, She-Ra is being mind-controlled by Shadow Weaver to remain loyal to the Horde. And they have to break her free of that mind control. Once they do, she pretty instantly switches sides. Shadow Weaver's manipulation is a lot deeper and more subtle in this show. And I mean, yeah, this is a context where years of abuse is the more subtle version. But the memory erasure thing is very reminiscent of both that and of a willpower draining device that was in that movie. The Horde was working on this willpower-fueled laser cannon, basically, and draining people, which had the side effect of making them, more subservient to the Horde. There's also a little of that in the idea of wiping memories isn't exactly either of those, but it's close enough to both to be sort of referential. Especially because in the movie, He-Man gets captured and put into that device, and here, Dora gets captured and subjected to it. This is really solid stuff. Princess Prom in particular is one of the best episodes of the season. My pick for the actual best episode is probably still to come. But this is good. The episodes that, the action-y episodes are fun. The more formulaic run of episodes in the middle of the season is fun. But the episodes that focus on the relationships between the characters are the best ones. And Princess Prom is entirely about that. It's, Catra using her knowledge of Dora to take complete control of a situation and pull off what, as she says at the beginning of No Princess Left Behind, no one else in the Horde could. Taking out a princess, one of the rebellion's best fighters, and the weapon that allows She-Ra to be She-Ra, all in one swoop, and all really based on what comes down to a psyop. She knew Adora well enough to get her attention and keep her attention while others took care of the actual capturing. It's a testament to just how dangerous Catra is, and in turn how big a deal her just giving the sword back to Adora is. Because ultimately, Catra doesn't care about capturing or not capturing Adora and the princesses. Her motivation in this whole two-parter is to get one up on Shadow Weaver. And when she realizes she's not going to get credit for her achievement in Princess Prom, she's got no motivation to try to hold on to Adora and Glimmer. And then her tsundere love for Adora kicks in, and she gives her the sword, but not because I like you or anything. Basically, this is a really good couple episodes that sets up some major stuff going forward. We, of course, will get the complete Dark Best Friends squad starting in next episode. And that's good stuff. Like, the villain team is a good villain team, and it finally solidifies as a consequence of the events of episodes 8 and 9. That's about it. Hope you all enjoyed that. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Check out my Patreon for early access to vlogs, essays, let's plays, and more. And I'll see you all next time. Bye!